tell you the deal, though the tale is old, I'll try to keep it real. It started when a republic was born under God. When the Trump was blown and the fake news grown, it flooded the people with lies they told. God appointed a new sheriff with a team called Q. Dissemination began to expose a satanic plot in their house of cards. But the Great Awakening was what the deep state feared the most. We must bring justice, though it's a hell of a thing. Put that fire right back on them and ensure this will never, ever happen again. Many have tried, many have died, too many have died. Take the slaughter creatures down. Our hope was lost, so give another road, carry the fire. Evil went underground. When Q came to town, Q came to town, Q came to town.
Broadcasting from the floating pie pan in the sky at Groom Lake Analog Recordings. Welcome to TarantulasDreamTV. Now here's your host, Samba.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another broadcast of Good Morning Vietnam. I'm just kidding. Welcome to TarantulasDreamTV. I am your host,
Samba.
There we go. I don't know why that didn't go off. Anyways, welcome back to the show, everybody. It's a beautiful Wednesday night over here at Groom Lake Analog Recording. Tonight, we're talking about the post-Trump world that QAnon lives in. That's what we're getting into tonight. Phone number for the show is 520-704-7820. 9:30, opening up the phone lines for everybody. If you'd like to call in, talk to old Samba over here, ask Samba a question. We can talk about QAnon. We can talk about how your week's been going, how your week was last week. I wasn't on the air last week. I was celebrating the birthday of my producer, Totatoban. Unfortunately, she's not on the air right now. She's not watching the stream. I believe she's at her other job right now. So if you tune in later, Totataban, happy birthday. Everyone wish her a wonderful late birthday. So I do want to get into some glorious meat of the night, but I do want to point out my sweater over here as Totataban over here on the chat. Eggs and Eyes, cool sweater. QAnon, not so cool. Yes, you got that right. My sweater is by a Phoenix artist over here, Craig Gleason. So please check him out over on Instagram. This is a little sweatshirt he put out a couple months ago, I want to say, and I love it. So I figured I'd wear it on the air. I didn't have a clean shirt. I didn't have a stitch to wear, as local chode Morrissey would say. He's not really a local chode, but he is a chode. Anyways, let's get into the meat of the night. Hell yeah. So tonight we're getting into QAnon for not the first time, not the second time, but the third time. Yes, we've covered QAnon a number of times before. We had a guest on the air, old Ersatz Ghost, and I chatted about QAnon and what QAnon means for conspiracy culture, as well as the United States, and at this point, even the world. But tonight, we're going to just specifically talk about QAnon in a post-Trump world, as the movement, the cult, is specifically targeted at members of the right-wing community, people who believe that Donald Trump was the savior of the United States, if not the world. And so, excuse me. So we're going to get into what does that look like now that we have a different president, that a lot of the beliefs and the predictions that believers of QAnon said was going to happen didn't come true. So we're going to get into that. So before we do that, I want to get into what exactly is QAnon. If you're not familiar with QAnon, if you decided to kind of separate yourself from the news cycle, if you decided to kind of not really pay attention to this weird sounding term. Now this comes from wikipedia.org. QAnon, or simply Q, is a disproven and discredited far-right conspiracy theory alleging that a secret cabal of Satan-worshipping cannibalistic pedophiles is running a global child sex trafficking ring and plotted committed against former U.S. President Donald Trump while he was in office. According to U.S. prosecutors, QAnon is commonly called a cult. Now, QAnon commonly asserts that Trump has been planning a day of reckoning known as the quote-unquote storm, when thousands of members of the cabal will be arrested. QAnon supporters have accused many liberal Hollywood actors, Democratic politicians, and high-ranking government officials of being members of the cabal. Now, QAnon came into focus in 2017 when a post by a user going by Q Clearance Patriot was put up on message board site and all around hub of shit, 4chan. Now, they posted on 4chan a thread that they entitled Calm Before the Storm, a reference to Trump's cryptic description of a gathering of United States military leaders he attended as the calm before the storm. Now, the quote-unquote storm became QAnon parlance for an imminent event in which thousands of alleged suspects will be arrested, imprisoned, and executed for being child-eating pedophiles. The poster's username implied that they hold Q clearance, or United States Department of Energy security clearance, required to access top-secret information on nuclear weapons and materials. An internal community soon developed around interpreting and analyzing posts attributed to Q, and among these conspiracy theorists, several individuals became minor celebrities within the community. Now, QAnon spread like wildfire throughout 2018, 2019, and especially in 2020, leading up to the November election. Now, the once fringe conspiracy theory began to take on a life of its own, becoming a core belief for many Trump supporters. Now, before we dive a little bit deeper into the meat, I want to get into some of the predictions, some of the QAnon predictions, the false predictions. Now, QAnon's first prediction was that Hillary Clinton was about to be arrested and would attempt to flee the country. This prediction failed. Now, some of the other failed predictions include the storm would take place on November 3rd, 2017. There was no notable events in U.S. politics on that day. The storm would take place on January 20th, 2021, the day of Biden's inauguration. No coup took place, and Biden was peacefully inaugurated. A major event involving the Department of Defense would take place on February 1st, 2018. That didn't happen. People targeted by the president would commit suicide en masse on February 10th, 2018. No prominent people committed suicide that day that we know of. There would be a car bombing in London around February 16th, 2018. There was no bombing. The Trump military parade would never be forgotten. The parade was canceled. So I suppose, I mean, I don't know. It's the Trump parade that was canceled is now on a list of failed predictions. So I guess maybe it won't ever be forgotten. I don't know. That one's kind of a little wishy-washy to me. The Five Eyes won't be around much longer. It has been terminated. I'm not sure exactly what the Five Eyes were. Something major would happen in Chongqing on April 10th, 2018. Nothing notable happened in Chongqing that day. There'd be a bombshell revelation about North Korea in May of 2018. There was no notable developments. A quote-unquote smoking gun video of Hillary Clinton would emerge in March of 2018. No video appeared. And the list goes on. There's plenty of other predictions I can put on here that I can read to you. I have at least another handful, but you get the picture. They predict a lot of things, and for the most part, QAnon, Q hasn't been right on most predictions, almost all of these predictions. None of these predictions came true. Well, here's what I want to read. Multiple failed predictions that Pope Francis would be arrested on felony charges. Francis has not been arrested. So there you go. That's another one. No arrest for the Pope. Now the next thing I want to get into is QAnon, Aitken, and the presidential election. Now, this comes from foreignpolicy.com, an article entitled QAnon Followers Trust the Plan, Not the Polls. Excuse me. Now, for years, the supposedly anonymous Q has promised that even the most chaotic happenings around U.S. President Donald Trump were a part of some master plan that would soon be revealed. Just this weekend, an official Q missive asked QAnon followers, "Are you ready to take back control of this country?" That optimism has generally carried over to the usual hangouts of Q's followers on Tuesday, even as polls continue to show Biden with a sizable lead. Now, obviously, this article was written roughly around November, by the end of October, beginning of November. Now, for years, the supposed anonymous Q has promised that even the most chaotic happenings around U.S. President Donald Trump were part of a master plan that would soon be revealed. Now, most QAnon followers are predicting a big Trump win. Regardless, many have fixated on isolated reports of broken voting machines or pro-Trump poll watchers being denied entry into polling locations as evidence that the supposed deep state is out to rig the results. Although there are relatively few reports of election hiccups, a reality which isn't lending itself well to the idea of a national conspiracy. Now, tonight may be a make-or-break moment for QAnon in many respects. There should be some victories, as pro-QAnon candidates such as Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Republican candidate for Congress in Georgia, are likely to win office. The big question is what happens if Trump doesn't win his second term. On some of 8chan, or formerly known as 8chan's, message boards, where much of the QAnon chatter happens, one poster warned to stand by because there's a strong possibility that patriots will need to go hot this week. Now, 8chan, I believe that's how it's pronounced. I don't know. I really don't like this name. It really bothers me, and I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced, and the content of the message board is awful, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's something really bad about it. But anyway, 8chan is a message board based website, much like 4chan, where users can post anonymously. Now, 8chan became the center of QAnon information after the original post over on 4chan. The user who posted as Q used a special trip code to identify themselves and maintain a sense of legitimacy amongst the fake Q posts that began to circulate on the message board. Now, other sites began to spring up as well that would take these posts and condense them into separate posts without the replies from the other users, with some of the more popular Q sites being Q drops and Q posts. And I didn't mention it here in my notes, but there were iOS and Android apps that would condense these posts as well. And you used to be able to download those apps, but according to like Apple's terms of service and Google's terms of service, those apps violated that, so they were removed. So you're not able to find these Q apps anymore on the App Store if you wanted to. Now, around the time ramping up to the election, Q drops began to focus on the Hunter Biden laptop from hell story involving Joe Biden's son Hunter and a supposed laptop that was abandoned at a computer shop in Delaware that contains supposed evidence of shady business dealings in Ukraine, China, and elsewhere, now some of which included meetings with apparently Joe Biden as well. Now, before we keep going over here, because we got a lot to cover, I want to check the chat. Lizzie Mouse, hashtag no rest for the Pope. Well, nice to see you, Lizzie Mouse. We missed you over here at the show. Yeah, no rest for the Pope over here. He does make a return later on in some other QAnon conspiracies. In fact, a number of weeks ago, it was rumored that he was also going to be arrested again. But as far as I know, the Pope is sitting pretty. He's not going anywhere. I don't think so anyway. Now let's get back to the Q drops over here. Now the Q drops veered more towards directing followers to articles published by Fox News around the time of the Hunter Biden story. One of the links that the Q drop sent people to was a story entitled "Hunter Biden Business Partner Emails Are Genuine," according to Joe Biden. Now, the Q drops also directed people to One America News Network, as well as tweets from Fox anchors filled with rumors regarding the new Hunter Biden evidence. Now, one of the Q drops over here said, "This is not going away. Corruption of the highest levels of government. DOJ_FBI_MSDNC. Political elite protection struggles during bright sunny days. Signed Q." Now, these articles would send you also over to Breitbart, where there was apparent bombshell statements about Hunter Biden's laptop. But ultimately, the Q drops really just laser focused on the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, where I guess you could call it a scandal. I don't know. It didn't really affect Joe Biden at all. Now, ultimately, the Hunter Biden laptop story seemed to do little effect to affect Joe Biden's campaign, and seemed to fall to the wayside as Election Day approached. Now, Q's post turned to more generic rallying cries over coded messages of Democratic pedophilia and child trafficking, right after the Hunter Biden story really seemed to not really go anywhere, which is a little weird to me if you're someone who's rumored to be like an upper level security government employee, or maybe someone in the Trump administration, that you would essentially just abandon your story, your Hunter Biden story, and sharing this story when the news media just stopped. Because essentially QAnon was supposed to be the real story, the real truth to the believers. So you would essentially just keep pushing the narrative of Hunter Biden's laptop for as long as possible. But they seemed to kind of abandon it when the news media did. So that kind of leads me to believe that Q probably wasn't some high-level government employee or, someone in the administration or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, so some of the posts that Q started to share right after the Hunter Biden story went something to the effect of, this is not about R versus D or Republicans versus Democrats. This is about preserving our way of life. If America falls, the world falls. Patriots on guard, Q. That came from Q on October 30th. The next Q drop was, are you ready to finish what we started? Nothing can stop what is coming is not just a catchphrase. That was from October 31st, as well as, are you ready to take back control of the country? As well as posting a link to a video of a space shuttle launch, like a high-def, high-audio spaceship launch. I don't really know what that was supposed to imply. As well as on November 2nd, Q posted a picture of an American flag, writing that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Abraham Lincoln, November 1863. Together we win. Now, right around that time, Q essentially stopped posting. Now, that was essentially right after Election Day, and Donald Trump wasn't declared the winner immediately, but so was Joe Biden wasn't declared the winner immediately as well. So Q went silent. Right after Election Day, no Q posts until November 7th, when most media outlets had begun reporting Joe Biden as the winner of the 2020 election. 5 days later, on November 12th, Q finally broke their silence with a drop, simply stating, nothing can stop what is coming, nothing. Since that drop, Q maintained a slow posting timeline, only posting 3 times, with one post theorizing that the reason Biden won was to show how faulty our election machines are, stating, how do you show the public the truth? How do you safeguard U.S. elections post-POTUS? How do you remove foreign interference and corruption and install U.S.-owned voter ID laws and other safeguards? It had to be this way. Sometimes you must walk through the darkness before you see the light. Q. Now, Q's last post on December 8th was simply a link to a video entitled We're Not Gonna Take It, which is presumably the Twisted Sister single, the same name. But when you go to that, click on that link, the video is blocked on copyright grounds. So I believe it was just a different video, maybe with QAnon imagery with that song kind of overlaid over it or playing behind it. I'm not sure. But that was the very last official Q post, Q drop. So since then, there hasn't been any more from whoever Q was, nothing on any of the Q drop sites. But let's continue before we head to the break over here. Now, this comes from wikipedia.org, and this has to do with QAnon and the Capitol insurrection. Now, most people in the chat over here or anyone watching this video probably knows what I'm talking about when I say the Capitol insurrection, but I'll read this anyway. Now, the storming of the United States Capitol was a riot and violent attack against the United States Congress at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Part of the 2020-2021 U.S. election protests, it was carried out by a mob of supporters of Donald Trump, the 45th U.S. president, in a failed attempt to overturn his defeat in the 2020 presidential election. The Capitol was placed under lockdown, and lawmakers were evacuated, while rioters occupied and vandalized the building. 5 people died and more than 140 were injured. Now, most people are fairly familiar with the details of the insurrection, so I won't really go into a lot of detail about the insurrection. But I did want to touch on the idea of where we go one, we go all, or WWG1WGA. Which is essentially the mantra of all QAnon believers. Now, where we go one, where we go all, it's a mouthful, implies that throughout the entire lifespan of the QAnon movement or cult, all followers and believers were essentially one giant unit, a mass movement of individuals being awoken, hence the Great Awakening, to the massive corruption within our government. Now, although this detail is sort of true, there is a lot of corruption in the government. The failing of QAnon is that they put their faith in someone like Donald Trump being the one outlier in the system, despite all evidence pointing to him not only engaging in government corruption, but also perpetuating it and profiting from it. Now, The events of January 6th at the Capitol are a direct result of years of false information being fed through various channels, including from the former president, Donald Trump. QAnon heavily fed into the narrative that despite media reports, Trump was working behind the scenes to take down the global cabals of satanic child trafficking and sacrifices, especially throughout the Democratic Party in Hollywood. The moment Trump lost in Congress was to affirm his loss officially, although this particular bit of government procedure is mostly just a formality. This immediately confirmed that the deep state was in full effect, taking down QAnon's chosen figurehead, and that something drastic needed to be done, hence storming the Capitol to stop the confirmation. And so that's where I'm going to leave you right now as we head into the break over here, as it is the bottom of the hour, and we have a new what you thinking about with Spumoni over here. We had a phone call over the week, so he's back and he's ready to answer all your questions, but he has a special question and a special answer for you. So here you go. This is what you think about with Spumoni.
Hello, my cosmic cashews. Spumoni here, cruising around time and space, ready to answer your questions on anything. And I mean anything. Tonight's question comes from Big Jim Gunderson. He says,
Hello? Yes, hi. Spumoni's line, right? Yeah, anyway, Spumoni, I just had a quick question. I know you're talking about QAnon, but I was curious if you had heard of Stew-Anon. It's a conspiracy where big government is hiding microchips in your stew, in your soup. So like your beef stew, your pho, I don't know how you pronounce it. Your chicken noodles, your minestrones, like that, they're tracking you through the soup. I was curious if you knew anything about that. I heard the only safe soup was clam chowder, so I think you should be able to stick with the chowders. But yeah, Stew-Anon, please answer my question. I want to know. I'm hungry. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you for that question, Big Jim. I got together with a few of my fellow Barnacle Nebula residents, and after conferring with the Galactic Federation, we all agreed that Stew-Anon is a massive threat to the global public at large and should be dealt with immediately. I will send forth 3 soup troops who will designate which soups are safe and which soups have massive microchip levels and should be launched into the farthest reaches of Alpha Centauri. Let's let those reptilians deal with it. I am sorry to say that clam chowder is #1 in microchips, so you'll have to stick with kipper snaps and a light brine for all your soup needs. Good luck with your stew dilemma.
There you go. There was what you're thinking about with Spumoni, answering a question about the hottest new conspiracy on the soup in the soup community. Stew-Anon, wasn't it? It was Stew-Anon. I don't know. The caller, I don't know, absolutely insane. But anyway, so I hope you enjoyed that. But it is the bottom of the hour. It is open lines, 520-704-7820 if you'd like to call in and ask old Samba over here a question. If you want to talk to me about QAnon, if you want to talk to me about my sweater over here, my Craig Gleason sweater, if you want to talk about what it's like to be just flying through space every Wednesday night over here on Instagram, or almost every Wednesday night over here on Instagram. I don't know. Sometimes I don't get on the air if I'm not feeling particularly good about getting on the air, or maybe something's going on. But anyway, so it is open lines, 520-704-7820. But let's get back into QAnon in a post-Trump world over here on Tarantula's Dream TV. And the next thing I want to get into is a very special someone over here, a friend of the show in the worst way. I'm talking about Q Shaman. Now, one of the more striking images from the Capitol insurrection footage was a shirtless man wearing a horned headpiece and face paint standing in the dais of the Senate. Or the dais. It's a dais? I don't know. Anyone in the chat know how to pronounce it? Now, going by the name Q Shaman, real name Jake Angeli spreads the message of QAnon to all who will listen, and is frequently seen at various protests and rallies around Phoenix, Arizona. Now, I do have a little slideshow over here that I'm going to throw under here while we talk about our good friend Jake Angeli, the Q Shaman, and let's continue over here. And let me actually move one more thing over here for you. There we go. Anyway, so yes, the Q shaman Jake Angeli. Let's get into him. Now, Angeli has a number of videos that he's posted on the website Rumble. Now, Rumble is a video hosting site similar to YouTube, allowing most videos to be posted aside from pornography, racist content, harassment, and illegal content. Now, Rumble has gained traction in 2020 when many conservative media figures such as Dinesh D'Souza, Sean Hannity, One America News Network, and more migrated to Rumble, claiming anti-right-wing censorship on YouTube. Now on Rumble, Angeli posts as Yellowstone Wolf AZ or Wolf AZ and covers a variety of topics with videos such as exposing the cabal, sex slaves, pornography and mind control, and the new woke order. Now, I didn't really want to download any of his videos and try to make like a supercut of it because I don't know. I just didn't really want to watch all his videos because they're not very good. But I do have what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off this little slideshow. I'm going to turn on a web browser and we're going to watch a little bit of a video. This one's exposing the cabal, and I want you to just kind of see Jake Angeli, the Q shaman, sort of just as he is. Because right now, in terms of what we're probably familiar with, is just what we've seen through the pictures of the Capitol insurrection, as well as maybe a few little video interviews online. But this is one of his original videos over here on Rumble. So let's watch just a little bit of this. This is also one of the shortest ones on here. A lot of them go over an hour and a half, 2 hours. This is only about half an hour, so we're going to watch this a few minutes.
What is up, everybody? I'm Admiral Angeli, and in this video, we're going to be talking about several things, actually. We're going to be talking about
He also calls himself Admiral Angeli. That's another one of his names, I guess.
Things like tactics that the enemy is using in this information, psychological warfare that we're going through, and how we can identify the opposition. We're going to be talking about several things. We're going to be talking about 5D chess in a whole new way. Now, in one of my previous videos, I explained that in 5D chess, you can end up making a single move at the right place and at the right time and end up changing the whole dynamics of the entire board and essentially make one move, several moves at once. So now
that's also like a thing with QAnon, is they're always believing that Donald Trump is playing what they deem as 5D chess, that he's just a master of thinking ahead, 10 steps ahead of him, or I guess 5 steps ahead of him. So I don't know, 5D chess.
And if looked at in the proper context, then everything it is that I've said about my ability to create storms, everything it is that I've said about all this inertia propulsion and anti-gravity and the goal-based currency, that it's all essentially true. And how you can, and if you look into the intelligence community, if you really look into intel extraction or intel drops or whatever, then you have to learn when to identify the patterns and read in between the lines. So shortly after I started saying I was going to run for the presidency, and shortly after I said that I had the ability to,
I guess he said he was going to run for
Donald Trump
president
said
for some
something
reason
along the lines of the storm is coming up behind him. Right up behind him. Okay, so the military and the intelligence community may at some point come right out and verify everything it is that I'm saying is true. However, in between now and then, there will be breadcrumbs left for you in different ways. You see, and these different ways are designed to kind of solidify the notion that these things are not only possible but true in the minds of those who are able to put the puzzle together on their own.
So there you go. That's pretty much the gist of Jake Angeli, the Q Shaman's videos. So I'm going to stop it right there because I think you kind of get the idea. You get the vibe he's going for over here. I don't know. He's got a lot of the very classic QAnon lingo down, the 5D chess, the breadcrumbs on some of the original QAnon episodes over here on TarantulasDreamTV. I had revealed that followers of the movement considered themselves or call themselves bakers because the Q drops are considered crumbs. And so they're baking a bread loaf or something with the crumbs. I don't know. So yeah, he was talking about leaving breadcrumbs, the evidence and whatnot. So if you have any interest in watching more of Jake Angeli's Q videos, you can head over to Rumble. They're still on there. They haven't been removed. In fact, this particular video exposing the cabal has 10,879 views and 196 rumbles. So I would imagine that's 196 people like the video. And I didn't sign up for a Rumble account. I didn't want to, but there's 38 comments. So I might sign up as a Rumble account. Maybe I'll do like a throwaway email or something, and I'll report back over there. But anyway, so that's Jake Angeli and his videos over on Rumble. Trial and Error Collective, hello. Oh, hello there, Trial and Error Collective. Nice to have you back over here on Tarantulas Dream TV, with your boy Samba over here talking about QAnon in a post-Trump world. Now, Angeli was quoted as saying that he took part in the Capitol insurrection, quote unquote, as a part of a group effort with other patriots from Arizona at the request of the president that all patriots come to D.C. on January 6, 2021. Now, this is from Wikipedia. On January 9th, Angeli was arrested and brought up on U.S. federal charges of knowingly entering or remaining in an restricted building or grounds without lawful authority and with violent entry and disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds. A Capitol Police special agent was quoted as saying that he pegged Angeli by his unique attire and extensive tattoos covering his arms and left side of his torso. Angeli voluntarily spoke to the Washington field office of the FBI prior to his arrest. Once in prison, Angeli reportedly refused to eat because the food served was not organic. Subsequently, a court ordered that he receive organic food. In a January 14th court filing, federal prosecutors said that Angeli had left a note on Pence's desk in the Senate chamber that said, "It's only a matter of time. Justice is coming." Now, on March 8th, 2020, so just a few days ago, Federal Judge Royce Lambert ruled that Angeli should not be released from jail, saying his lawyer's arguments were so frivolous as to insult the court's intelligence. In a written statement, the judge said the defendant does not fully appreciate the severity of the allegations against him. Now, like many individuals who took part in the insurrection, Angeli trusted that Donald Trump would issue a final presidential pardon to his most ardent and fanatical supporters. When this invariably did not happen, as part of Angeli's defense, his lawyer stated he regrets very, very much having just been duped by the president, but by being in a position where he allowed that duping to put him in a position to make decisions he should not have made. As to my client, the guy with the horns and the fur, the meditation and organic food, I'm telling you that we cannot simply wave a magic wand and label all these people on January 6th the same. So Jake Angeli, Q Shaman, is still sitting there in jail, waiting for his trial, I guess, his court date on some pretty hefty charges over there. So, definitely watch the Q Shaman videos, because who knows how long they're going to be up on over on our favorite right-wing, non-censored website, video hosting site, Rumble. Now, fairly recently, there has been some new theories with QAnon. Now, one of the more recent theories that at this point has not come to pass, as it was rumored for March 4th, and it is now March 10th, and it did not come to pass. But this new theory states that on March 4th, the U.S. military would take control of the country, removing President Biden from the White House, allowing Donald Trump to be re-inaugurated as the 19th president of the United States. This theory stems from the sovereign citizens movement, one in which there are many, many rabbit holes to go through, and I'm not going to go through all of them. But ultimately, the main idea is that the United States is less a country and more a corporation, one in which a person can separate themselves by declaring themselves expatriates. The U.S. and by extension the Constitution can be ignored as non-citizens as well. Now, this is from Wikipedia. Writing in American Scientific Affiliation, Dennis L. Fute reviewed American Militias, Rebellion, Racism, and Religion by Richard Abanis, and described the theory of Richard McDonald, the sovereign citizen leader, which is that there are two classes of citizens in America: the original citizens of the states, or state citizens, and U.S. citizens. McDonald asserts that U.S. citizens or 14th Amendment citizens have civil rights, legislated to give the freed black slaves after the Civil War rights comparable to the unalienable constitutional rights of white state citizens. The benefits of U.S. citizenship are received by consent in exchange for freedom. State citizens consequently take steps to revoke and rescind their U.S. citizenship and reassert their de jure common law state citizen status. This involves removing oneself from federal jurisdiction and relinquishing any evidence of consent to U.S. citizenship, such as a social security number, driver's license, car registration, use of zip codes, marriage license, voter registration, and birth certificate. Also included is refusal to pay state and federal income taxes because citizens not under the U.S. jurisdiction are not required to pay them. Only residents or resident aliens of the states, not its citizens, are income taxable, state citizens argue. And as a state citizen landowner, one can bring forward the original land patent and file it with the county for absolute or allodial property rights. Such allodial ownership is held without recognizing any superior to whom any duty is due on account thereof. Superiors include those who levy property taxes or who hold mortgages or liens against the property. Now, other beliefs of the sovereign citizens movement include the idea that people can be tricked into a contract of adhesion that binds them to the government by using various things, including social security numbers, fishing licenses, or zip codes, and that avoiding their use means immunity from government authority. Using arguments that rely on exacting definitions and word choice, sovereign citizens may assert a right to travel in a conveyance, distinguishing it from driving in an automobile to justifying ignoring requirements for license plates, vehicle registration, and driver's licenses. The right to travel is claimed based on a variety of passages, some being more commonly used among the groups. Now, this comes from an article I found on a website called federaljack.com entitled "The Act of 1871. The United States is a corporation. There are two constitutions." Now, since the Act of 1871, which established the District of Columbia, we have been living under the United States Corporation, which is owned by certain international bankers and aristocracy of Europe and Britain. Now, in 1871, the Congress changed the name of the original Constitution by changing one word, and that was very significant, as you will read. Some people do not understand the one word or two words difference in any legal document do make the critical difference, but Congress has known and does know this. In 1871, on February 21st, 1871, Congress passes an act to provide a government for the District of Columbia, known as the Act of 1871. With no constitutional authority to do so, Congress creates a separate form of government for the District of Columbia, a 10-mile square parcel of land. The act, passed when the country was weakened and financially depleted in the aftermath of the Civil War, was a strategic move by foreign interest or international bankers or the Illuminati or the NWO, who were intent upon gaining a stranglehold on the coffers and neck of America. Congress cut a deal with the international bankers, specifically Rothschilds of London, again a favorite of conspiracy theorists, to incur a debt to said bankers. Because the bankers were not about to lend money to a floundering nation without serious stipulations, they devised a way to get their foot in the door of the United States. The Act of 1871 formed a corporation called the United States. The corporation, owned by foreign interests, moved in and shoved the original Constitution into a dustbin. With the Act of 1871, the organic Constitution was defaced, in effect vandalized and sabotaged when the title was capitalized and the word "for" was changed to "of" in the title. So yeah, a little convoluted to say the least, but essentially it all boils down to we don't live in a country really, we live in a corporation. The United States is sort of just like a business, and so therefore you're able to kind of you're able to kind of separate yourself by not using government documents, by not paying taxes. And I remember specifically, as an aside, many years ago going through a kind of a YouTube rabbit hole where I was watching a lot of videos on people describing how you can use your social security number and essentially claim money from the government that essentially you're kind of like you have a dollar amount tied to your social security number or to your birth certificate or something like that. And if you essentially you can use it to pay your bills, like you get a utility bill, write something with a certain verbiage on there and put your number on there, and essentially they would pay the bill using this money that the government had on you. Anyway, it was a very interesting time in my life. I didn't think it was true, but I watched a lot of videos on it. Anyway, but we're going to watch a video right now. This is a comedian. His name is Josh Sardam, and he had sort of another explanation for the sovereign citizens movement, one that's a little more palatable, as well as a sort of an explanation on what was supposed to happen on March 4th. And this was posted right before the inauguration of Joe Biden.
So, guys, turns out I was wrong. Donald Trump is not going to be inaugurated tomorrow, January 20th. But neither is Joe Biden. So, I guess it all starts in 1871. Because that's how long it's been since this has actually been a country. Apparently, we've been a corporation owned by the City of London. This is how far back this goes. We actually haven't been a country, guys. All intel says that Pelosi, Biden, Harris, Pence, all of them are going to be picked up. And when the inauguration comes around, there'll be nobody ratified by the Senate to take the seat. Therefore, the contract with the City of London is null and void. This, in fact, is why the military is as dense as they are in D.C., because they will take custody of the United States. That's why all along this coast, from there to there, and all along this coast, from there to there, our Navy is lined up. You can see them as far as the horizon goes. From north all the way to south, there is naval ships. That's why all in this region right here, there's so many aircraft, it's like you can't even see through it when you look at the radar. That's why the military is standing up all across this region. They will take control tomorrow. And then all the evidence of the fraud will show that Trump won overwhelmingly. And then probably, from what I've heard, in March, he will be the 19th president of the United States. The last time we had an actual president of this country was Ulysses S. Grant. Of course, he was the 18th president. So Trump will be the 19th president of the United States. Now I can hear you. No, that's not.
Blew my mind too, buddy. Anyway, that was that was a comedian, Josh Sardam. Now, I know what you're thinking. He's a comedian, so maybe he was just joking. But I found him online. I found him at his Instagram, and I looked up his Clapper account. I downloaded Clapper, and I found him on there. All his videos are gone on Clapper. He's deleted all of them. So I don't know why he did that, but they're gone. And honestly, I didn't even really know what Clapper was. I guess it's sort of like maybe it's like another censorship-free like TikTok alternative. I don't know. It's probably another social media outlet that is very popular with members of the right. But yeah, I also found him on Instagram, and essentially all his videos that have to do with Donald Trump and right-wing kind of politics, those are also gone, and it's just like stand-up sets. So I don't think he was joking. So there you go. That was Josh Sardam kind of explaining the sovereign citizens conspiracy theory for March 4th. Now, the theory had gained enough traction that security and military presence in Washington, D.C. was beefed up around the date, although the date came and went with only a handful of Q supporters showing up in hopes of witnessing the re-inauguration. Now, the date of March 4th was chosen as it was the original inauguration date prior to the 20th amendment, which shortened the lame duck period to January 20th. Now, some followers of Q have denounced March 4th as a potential false flag operation. Alex Kaplan of Media Matters for America documented some of these beliefs over an ongoing Twitter thread, which I'm actually going to pull up now. We're going to take a little look at some of these Twitter thread QAnon posting over here. So this is the thread over here. The first little post says, can't help but get the feeling that these March 4th true inauguration stories are planned disinfo being peddled by the injected anons to dupe people into spreading probably nonsense theories that make the whole movement look dumb. Another post over here on this thread is pretty long, and I'm going to read a little bit of it. It says, so this group has been taken private. Why? Because mostly because I'm tired of the endless crap fest I'm seeing on display here of late. Lots of low quality post spam junk and hopium threads. Yes, the situation we're in is bleak. No, it does not mean that Biden is working from an Amazon studio set. No, it does not mean Trump will be re-inaugurated on March 4th. I'm sorry if that's hard for some of you to hear, but it's reality, and you benefit no one by imbibing and spreading around theories based more on hopium than actual tangible analytical evidence. I also think people need to be reminded how much this community actually matters and how much membership is a privilege, not a right, and moreover, how much work I, myself, and the admins put into it. So there you go. There's another post kind of just throwing away this idea that March 4th was going to be an actual date. And one of the last posts I read is, wow, a Dem congresswoman, just referred to anti-Semitic QAnon conspiracy theorists being among the violent insurrectionists on January 6th, listening to the DHS hearing on January 6th events. I wonder if she's the shill, been posting anti-Semitic crap on 8kun all this time. Got to manage the setup, right? Wouldn't surprise me. Holy shit, just said QAnon is planning another event on March 4th. They are planning another violent protest specifically to paint all who support QAnon as domestic terrorists. Damn, explains why so many have been pushing that date. So not everybody subscribed to the idea that March 4th was going to be an actual March surprise of Donald Trump being re-inaugurated. So a lot of QAnon followers did not believe that. Now, the last thing I want to get into before the top of the hour here and the end of the show is the big question on my mind, and I think a lot of people's minds when they think of QAnon. Who is Q? Who is QAnon? Who is constantly posting all these things and riling up a giant base of people? Who did it? So we're going to get into that. Now, theories on who was posting as Q range from a top White House advisor, a member of the military, a white hat hacker, or even Donald Trump himself. Now, in reality, the list of who is potentially Q is actually fairly short, with only a handful of names rising to the top. Now, the owner of 8kun, Jim Watkins, and his son, former 8kun site administrator Ron Watkins, have been rumored to be posting as Q. Now, this is from Wikipedia. Numerous journalists and conspiracy theory researchers believe that Watkins or his son, Ron, are working with Q, know Q's identity, or are themselves Q. When 8chan was taken off the internet in August of 2019 following 3 mass shootings, Q stopped posting. When it came back online on November 6th, Q reappeared. Some researchers believe that Q's choice to wait for 8chan to come back online rather than posting elsewhere demonstrates that Watkins is behind the Q account. QAnon researcher Marc-Andre Argentino said in March of 2020 that based on an analysis of Q's posts, he believes Watkins has been posting as Q since autumn of 2019. Also in March of 2020, QAnon researcher Mike Rothschild said it would be very easy for the Q poster to use another forum or provide a cryptographic key to prove his authenticity on some of these other sites, but instead they wait to post on this rickety version of 8chan. The only reason to keep Q on 8chan is because Watkins is personally connected to him. Now, Frederick Brennan quoted in The Atlantic in June of 2020 saying, I definitely 100% believe that Q either knows Jim or Ron Watkins or was hired by Jim or Ron Watkins. In an interview on a September 2020 episode of the podcast Reply All, Brennan, the original owner of 8kun, explained that he believed that the Q account was originally operated by someone else, but that Watkins and his son took control of the persona, most likely around December of 2017. PJ Voigt of Reply All has said he discussed Brennan's theory with other journalists who write about Q, and that some of them think it's likely. Everyone agrees it's more than plausible. Watkins has denied knowledge of Q's identity, as has his son. Now, in a message posted to Telegram after the January 20th inauguration of Joe Biden, Ron Watkins seems to have departed from the Q movement, although this too could be a ruse. And I do have this post right here that I can pull up for you. There you go. He said, "We gave it our all. Now we need to keep our chins up and go back to our lives as best as we are able. We have a new president sworn in, and it's our responsibility as citizens to respect the Constitution, regardless of whether or not we agree with the specifics or details. As we enter into the next administration, please remember all the friends and happy memories we made together over the past few years. I'll have more to say in a few days regarding a new project I'm currently fleshing out. God bless. So yeah, that was the last post by Ron Watkins in regards to QAnon. A very happy message. It turns out QAnon's real kind of motivation was just, the friends along the way that you make on a when you're kind of diving into a almost like a party altering conspiracy cult over here. So there you go. Now, another name being thrown around as a potential Q poster has been one of the founders of Patriot Soapbox, Coleman Rogers, otherwise known as Pamphlet-Anon. Now, this is from the Daily Beast from a Daily Beast article. Patriot Soapbox is a 24-hour, 7 days a week, full-face dive into the heart of QAnon. It is the hub of a devoted community of tens of thousands of QAnon believers eager to share the off-the-wall ideas with each other. The various shows running on Patriot Soapbox often open with a Q-themed song like the Western style When Q Comes to Town, before launching into fevered dissections of QAnon clues and interpretation of current events through a QAnon lens. Now, this is from MSNBC.com. Recently, some QAnon followers have accused Diaz and Rogers, the founders of Patriot Soapbox, profiteering from the movement by soliciting donations from their followers. Other pro-Trump online groups have questioned the roles that Diaz and Rogers have played in promoting Q, pointing to a series of slip-ups that they say show Rogers and Diaz may have been involved in the theory from the start. These accusations have led Diaz and Rogers to both deny that they are Q and say they don't know who Q is. There's no direct proof that the group or any individual members are behind it. Still, QAnon skeptics have pointed to 2 videos as evidence that Rogers had insider knowledge of Q's account. Some YouTube channels, like one named Unirock, are mostly dedicated to poring over Patriot Soapbox live streams and dissecting the reported slip-ups. One archived live stream appears to show Rogers logging into the 8chan account of Q. The Patriot Soapbox feed quickly cuts out after the login attempt. Sorry, leg cramp, Rogers says before the feed reappears seconds later. Users in the associated chat rooms began to wonder if Rogers had accidentally revealed his identity as Q. How did you post as Q? One user wrote. In another live streamed video, Rogers began to analyze a supposed Q post on his live stream, where he and his co-host points out that the post in question doesn't actually appear on Q's feed and was authored anonymously. Rogers' explanation that Q must have forgotten to sign in before posting was criticized as extremely unlikely by people familiar with the message board, as it would require knowledge of the posting to pick it out among hundreds of other anonymous ones. In part because of the mounting claims against Patriot Soapbox, the web's largest pro-Trump community has banned all mentions of QAnon. Reddit's 640,000 member community of r/the_Donald set up an auto-delete function for mentions of QAnon's posts, or QAnon's claims, Two moderators confirmed to NBC News, believing the group of YouTubers is making posts as Q. So there you go. Those are some of the theories on who is Q, who's making these posts. I was able to find one of the archived videos, the one where he is looking at a QAnon post of like a bicycle, and the co-host asked him how he knows that's Q because it's not author, it doesn't say Q on there, it doesn't have his trip code, and he gives the explanation. I found that one, but the other one of him logging in under the 8chan account of Q, that one seems to be gone. It's scrubbed from the internet. The links are all dead, so I haven't seen that one, and people are very curious to see what that looks like. So unfortunately, I guess that's just lost to the internet. Now, the final thing I want to get into before the end of the show here is what's going on with QAnon right now. So, as of this show, 8kun still has a handful of active QAnon subs, including Q Research, a Patriot Research, and Q Midnight Writers, Q Patriot Research. So let me pull up the message board right here. I'm not going to go too deep into it because it is a 4chan-like board, and so there's probably some stuff on here that is probably not particularly NSFW or not safe for my show. But anyway, so this is a little look at what a QAnon message board over on Econ looks like. You have a little American flag over here. It says Q Patriot Research, Patriot Research. First post over here says undeniable truth. Trump hung out with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the poster over here is being labeled a troll. Another poster says, so he knows firsthand what fucking scumbags Epstein and Maxwell are. Who better to take them down than someone with firsthand knowledge? Plus, I mean, has any A-lister on Earth not hung out with Trump? You know how many photos I've seen of that man. They photo him tipping valet, walking, breathing, golfing, dating, eating, so... There you go. You can't get him with that stuff. Another post over here says an army of digital soldiers continues to work for the Great Awakening in America. Millions of around the world support our goal to eradicate corruption and trafficking. The deep state defined 2020. Everyone watched the deep state in action all year. Lockdowns, hoaxes, trashing POTUS, trashing conservatives, faking race tensions, faking homophobic tensions, domestic terror, cowardly leaders, greedy leaders, mainstream media state propaganda machine. We can make America great again. This was posted. It was posted in January. So the message board isn't hopping over here. One of the pictures over here looks like it's Q has been dark for 30 days. At times, Q strategically goes dark for X days, weeks, or months. Often, when Q is dark, major military or military intelligence operations are occurring behind the scenes. Do not mistake silence for an action. Great time to reread old drops. Enjoy the show. And so that's where I'm going to leave you with QAnon over here on TarantulasDreamTV. It's still popping off. There's still people who very actively believe in QAnon, who are still doing the research. The bakers are still baking the bread over here, still taking the crumbs and making nice little loaves of bread. And it doesn't look like it's going to be slowing down anytime soon. It's not quite the bustling kind of hub of activity as it used to be, especially now that Donald Trump's not the president anymore. But it's a very much an active community still. So if you have any interest in researching QAnon for yourself, you're more than welcome. There's still a lot to be learned about this very strange and very not great community over here, or cult as it's more commonly believed. Anyways, but that is the end of the show for this evening. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to Tarantulas Dream TV, broadcasting over the Instagram airwaves live every Wednesday from 9 to 10 p.m. I will be back next week with a new video, a new topic, as well as hopefully a new video for all the Spumoni lovers over here. I hope you enjoyed the Spumoni video from tonight. I'm going to post it over on the Instagram for those who didn't get to see it. But please stay safe this week. COVID is still out there. The numbers going down. Very happy with that, but still stay vigilant, wear a mask, social distance if you can, and remember, it is a weird, weird world. Take care.